There we go. Okay, we'll call this meeting of the planning and zoning committee to order. Item number 1. AEBK LLC, 4323 State Road 91 on the Kaimai conditional use permit.
First of all, we did receive a resolution from the town of Kaimai recommending approval with the condition. Condition is regarding lighting, says no lighting should face the direct surrounding property owners. Staff report reads as follows. The town of Kaimai has approved with conditions. Town may approve with conditions, or deny in a non-shoreland area. Town findings for approval are as follows, or town findings for approval were as follows. They approved. There were no objections. Proposed use is compatible with adjacent uses. Town recommendation is for approval with the following conditions. Town condition 1, lighting, no lighting should face direct surrounding property owners. County conditions, all applicable zoning, sanitary, erosion control, and stormwater permits shall be issued before construction and operation of the proposed use may begin. 2, all standards of chapter 23.325 of the Winnebago County zoning code shall be met prior to operation of proposed use. And 3, Winnebago County Planning and Zoning Committee shall conduct a review of the proposed conditional use permit 12 months from the date of issuance.
I make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for KEBK LLC.
I'll second it.
It's moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, I'm not seeing any. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Move on to item number 2. Divine Journey, 7174 LaBelle Shore Road, called the Winnebago zoning map amendment committee review and action of the zoning change referred back to the committee from the county board.
Here are the packets I'd like to distribute. Basically, it's the hearing county board packet that you would have received before. From county board had referred this back to the planning and zoning committee at the request of Supervisor Olson, I believe, from town of Winnebago. They have been Nelson. They've been wrestling with some drainage issues. Staff recommendation is to forward this right back to county board, as the drainage issues are not related to the zoning change. This is a zoning change. The town did recommend approval of the zoning change. Drainage issues are local issues that they should be addressing there, rather than trying to hold another zoning change or something else in abeyance to solve those issues. So I would recommend, staff would recommend forward it back to county board. Planning and zoning committee has heard this and reviewed all the findings and made their decision.
Move it goes back to county board.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item?
I have a little discussion here. So I kind of looked into this. And I got some information that it was being sent back for another reason, even though it was drainage, that the town of Winnebago went about the CSM the wrong way and didn't have the proper meeting to have the town board approve it. The town chairman went ahead and approved it. So that was their caveat. Which
That is
isn't again our
right. That is correct. I did hear that too, but again, this is a whole
so we've
separate,
already had this.
it's a whole separate matter. That CSM is a local issue on the
Yep.
procedure that they have to sort through.
So I feel we as a committee did nothing wrong.
The committee did its job properly. That is correct.
Yeah, for some reason zoning issues tend to get dragged into everything else, as we've all seen over the years, serving on our various committees, at our municipalities and whatnot. It's. Yeah, I mean, it gets confusing enough for us sometimes, and then the people who aren't working on these things, it's even more confusing, so.
And my
It'll
understanding,
be incumbent, I'll have to. Help, if anybody raises these questions again, I'm gonna have to step up at the next meeting and just. Say, okay, you're not bringing this back to us again.
and my understanding is the so-called drainage issues have been there for like 30 years plus, so it's trying to get a new property owner to fix existing problems, which that's not our business, but that's a local issue. We will address drainage when we issue actual permits that give us authority to do
Right.
so. A zoning permit and erosion control permit for the actual construction.
Exactly, this is just
Yeah.
one step of the process, and that's what we need to.
So has the CSM been corrected?
The CSM had already been recorded, and I don't know what they're gonna do with that. There was talk that they maybe would try to send some kind of an affidavit, but I'm thinking that their attorney may advise otherwise. It's an after the fact, and again, they're trying to grab other existing issues and use the CSM to hold over them, but again, it's not my business to manage what the town does. It's,
Some of this has become political issue in the
Yeah.
township also.
I suspect that as well.
And this is just a question, is it appropriate to approve the zoning changes pending the approval of the CSM?
What we have done in the past, and I did on this one, Howard,
Yeah,
is recognizing that we're running two side by
Yeah.
side. I made the zoning change effective upon recording of the CSM. So that if the CSM doesn't get recorded, the zoning changes null, and then we don't have that issue.
all right.
Any other discussion?
Can we make a motion on that?
It's been made.
Already been made.
Yeah, we don't start discussion until we have the
Yeah.
motion.
I made the first.
Well, but I'm just wanting to make sure we can get that in writing,
What?
what he just said about.
It's already done.
It's already done.
Okay,
Okay, not seeing any more discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
See none opposed, passes. And that concludes the agenda for that meeting. Accept a motion,
We adjourn.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sure.
Do some stuff.
Okay, call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Committee to order. And on the agenda here, item number 1, approval of minutes from March 1st public hearing, March 10th planning meeting, March 10th planning and zoning deliberative, and March 24th viewing. Have a motion,
I'll move that we approve all three of those. Or 4 of those meetings.
you, second.
I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections of any kind to those? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Now we move on to the big one here. Committee discussion on Sawyer Creek floodplain amendment and possible committee action on forwarding amendment to planning and zoning committee public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I thought, and it was brought up last time also, that we were gonna go ahead and have a public forum that people could come and speak to us beforehand. It was brought up that that was gonna be on the agenda. We have several people back here. I see that are ready to speak. Are you gonna want them to speak during when we talk, or when?
I think we should have our discussion. And then we will, actually, let me see, how should we do this? Should we do this like our normal meetings and let the public speak first on this? You've been chairman before. I haven't had.
Well, I said that we never had it before, but we
Yeah.
talked about last
Yeah,
time we're
we
gonna
did
start
talk
doing
about
it.
You're right.
And
Tom is right. Yes.
I would ask the committee how they would prefer. We have the people from
I
the public
think
here
we
speak
have-
first?
We have
Try to
several
answer.
people here from the public, and I think we should hear what they have to say.
Do we want to hear them? Do we want to hear them speak first? Do we want to
I
speak
think
first?
so.
I
It's in
agree.
regard to this matter, so.
Okay, it sounds like unanimous, so.
Okay.
We. You, let's see. Anybody who wants to speak, if you would please stand. And give us your name and your address before you speak, and then address us. We will try to answer any questions that they may have. Not, we'll try to keep track of all your questions and come back and try to get answers to any questions that you may have. We have other people here I see from the city. So if anybody here can answer those questions right away as far as staff goes, I would hope that we can try to maybe combine the answers down, and so that way we don't have. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible for everybody here, so that way we're not treading over the same questions again and again. So we'll get your answers. Don't worry about that. And I'm sure we'll want those answers for our decisions as well. So if that says anybody here can speak. Whatever.
Brian Edward Efferding, 686 Oak Street, Neenah, Wisconsin, County Board Supervisor for District 6. I'm here to say that I believe it's time to take a stand to reject this floodplain map amendment. As you know, I've served on the Planning and Zoning Committee for a couple of terms. And you know, when it comes to drainage and when it comes to flooding and water and erosion control, I mean, obviously, you know, the county does take that seriously, and the farmers and the towns take that very seriously. And I know that the city takes that seriously too. But what we don't often talk about is the slow erosion of liberty that often comes along with it too. Now, keep in mind, we have to know the history of flood storage districts. Flood storage districts was originally supposed to be only defined as something that happens within a floodplain. And with this floodplain map amendment going forward, that flood storage district is now outside of a floodplain. And I know that we went through a lot of big back and forth with the county as well as FEMA and the DNR of what that definition was. We kind of got the runaround, and I know that we had frustrations with the department in regards to that. Finally, we got this answer back saying that you can have flood storage districts outside of a floodplain. I think that can set a very dangerous precedent when that happens. Simply because at that point, then, you know, are we really, you know, relying upon the science and relying upon the study in regards to what is considered to be a flood storage district? Now, even if we think that this is going to be a scientific approach, it can also be just as much a political one if that is the case, especially if we decide to codify this into federal law. And that's exactly what we would be doing with this floodplain map amendment, is going beyond what the county already has to what it is within FEMA as well as the state as well. And so with that, I think that we need to keep that in mind in regards to what kind of precedent we are setting with this simple floodplain map amendment. It with the National Flood Insurance Program, we are starting to see how exactly they can control the county, how exactly they can control property owners as well as the farmers, of what they can say, of what they can do with their land, simply using the National Flood Insurance Program as a method of control. We got letters from FEMA stating that if we do not approve this, that there is the possibility that they could withdraw everyone from the National Flood Insurance Program. And obviously, we all took that as a thinly veiled threat. I did. And I don't think I was the only, you know, supervisor that interpreted it that way. And the way this was handled was just very poorly done. It was just really, really poorly done. It was put in front of us saying, okay, let's approve it. And it wasn't until me and a couple other supervisors were like, hold on a minute, wait, what is this about? And furthermore, we come to find out that a lot of the property owners in which these flood storage districts were affecting, some of them that are here, they didn't even realize that this was happening. And so there was just a very terrible communication. And I don't even think this is really, even if it was approved, I don't really think this was a good approach to take. Obviously, farmers, when it comes to stormwater and erosion control and water irrigation, they take that very seriously. That's their bread and butter. And they do take this seriously too. I think a better approach would have simply been, let's talk with the farmers out in Winnebago County and say, what can we do to mitigate flooding within the county? And look at workshops, share best practices, things like that, community-oriented solutions, rather than some sort of top-down management that happens from FEMA all the way down to the city, to the DNR. I just don't think that that's the right method, the right path to take. So I think with this in mind, we should reject this floodplain map amendment. Furthermore, it's been revealed recently to me, thankfully because of Buck here, that our application for a floodplain map amendment, I'm not even sure if that was actually legal. And that is something that still needs to be looked at as well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Would you like to speak?
I'm Dennis Radloff, and the majority of the land you're trying to take or condemn or whatever you want to call it, just ain't right. I mean, you shouldn't be able to acquire somebody else's property or devalue it just for the city's sake. It's just ain't right.
I'm more than happy to.
No, go ahead.
Oh, please. I'd like to follow you.
No, we're not planning on presenting anything. We're gonna answer the questions, and we told the county we couldn't make this meeting because our consultant wasn't available in Texas, but we're here just to answer the questions and listen.
Yeah, we're not ultimately making it, the decision we're making today is how we're going to go forward. We can't, we've been discussing this behind the scenes since the last election, because I took over as chairman and I said, this has been sitting on the back burner. We need to get a vote on this, up or down, either way. I'm not pushing for it, I'm not pushing against it. I'm just saying we need to get all of the people, which would be the landowners, get you guys included, city included, get FEMA included, get DNR, get everybody there and get a presentation, so that way everybody has the information and we know what we're voting on, and nobody can say this was hearsay, this was hearsay. We have the information. That's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to get information out. So that way we can make it.
So this is the information seeking meeting at this point?
We're gonna basically plan how to go forward, and my hope. Now, I sat and talked with Mark Lyons from city planning. And because of the issues we've had trying to get Strand to show up for the meetings and not having timing and whatnot. And his suggestion to me, and take this as you will, was that we set a date for later in the year. Obviously, we're getting into planting season, so we don't want to do this during planting season when the stakeholders that have farms are all planting and can't get in, won't have the time. So if we were to do something later this year and just set a date, then then it would be much easier for us to get people involved. As far as the Strand, FEMA, get all the people there, so we can get all the information there. You can get questions asked, can get questions answered. And so on and so forth. I don't know how county staff feels, but that seemed like a very reasonable suggestion from Mark.
Yeah, I mean, we're, whatever is committee's pleasure.
So I'm just putting that out there right now while
Yeah.
we're speaking. And if we want to kill this right now, I guess we probably could, couldn't we?
Again, that's entirely up to the committee, John.
So,
Yes.
so I mean,
Chairman.
yeah, everything's in our hands going forward right now. We're listening to what's being said. We're gonna take that in, and then we're gonna discuss it and decide how to go forward. But we're not gonna spring anything on anybody. My hope is that we plan something for later this year. And that we say that's what we're gonna have everybody available to be there, because it's not in the middle of planting season. It's not when the engineers can't be there. We want to set a time and date so that way we can get questions answered. And look people in the eye and ask those questions. And I think
Has this new current group taken a field trip?
as far as out to the lands that are.
Well, look at the retention pond that's out there.
To look at the theoretical plan as opposed to what is actually there.
We have not thought out and taken a look at that because we usually that's something we do as we have something coming forward. Everything's been so in limbo right now, it's. You know, we're trying to find a way forward right now. So that would probably follow something, or a decision that we would make here if we were going forward, then we would end up out checking out the areas. So. It's unfortunately, yeah, I'm trying to get the cart and the horse in the right order right now and get us so we can actually start moving forward instead of just kind of in this hover that we've been in for what, 2 years now? 4 years, okay. So I just want us to get conclusion to this one way or another, because it's not fair to the landowners, it's not fair to the people that we sit here and don't do anything on it. We have to make a decision. That's what we're elected for. I think everybody on here agrees with that.
So is today to make a decision on whether to move forward or not, or is today to gather information on how to move forward?
Well, I'm not gonna tell the my commissioners how to vote if they decide that they don't want to go forward. That's their decision. It's, you know, I'm here, I'm just facilitating the meeting right now. So let's find out what we're going to do, how we're going to go about doing this. It's my hope that we can actually go forward and actually have the information out there, get everybody together on a date where we aren't affecting your livelihood. And on a day we can actually get the engineers there, so that way we can have these questions answered. And like I said, it means a lot when you can look someone in the eye and get those answers from them. And I think you all deserve that, especially after being in limbo for all these years.
Well, supposedly the city's already working on building another retention pond right next to the other ones, so they really shouldn't need our land anyway, so. That's accurate.
What is accurate? Tell me.
It's all our neighbors are lying to us. They're invited to the meeting for the city.
Do we want,
I mean, he brought it up.
okay,
Just
Board on.
Steve Godey with the City of Oshkosh, this is Director of Public Works, Utilities General Manager. As I mentioned, unfortunately, our consultant, Strain and Associates, who's been working on this project for better than a decade. The engineer was scheduled to be in Texas this week. He wasn't able to coordinate schedules to be here to do a presentation. With that, there are a couple of new committee members on here that I don't know if they've been at the meetings, have all the background. I would ask that it not be project not be canceled before you have all the background information and all of that as a moving forward. And we are here to try to answer questions to that point. We don't have a presentation prepared, that information to be given, but we are here to try to answer questions.
So there is no retention pond? I can't address him.
exactly.
So you're telling me for the information.
As far as the city of Oshkosh goes, the city of Oshkosh runs the city of Oshkosh. We have Winnebago County, and I know that can sound very confusing. When Oshkosh does a development, we don't have a say in it. Where is the land that they're talking about? Is that city land or is that in the county?
In the town of Oklahoma.
It's in the town of Oklahoma.
Which parcel lands are right?
Well, where are you talking about this development being?
We're talking about the,
Is it town of Oklahoma?
yes, it is. Well,
So that and then.
I don't know if it's
I
on a
haven't
portion
heard
of
anything about
the annex that's moved
Well, I
forward
think
into
is.
it.
I'm asking you guys, have you heard of anything in the town of Oklahoma for?
Oh,
Yes.
wow. Wow, it's been in the paper even. We're gonna go down that road. I can't wait to start my new hobby. I can't wait.
So, capital improvement plan, Sawyer Creek watershed said this would be the 300 to 400 acre feet, floodwater. It would be holding that, and it would be, the project will be south of 20th Avenue and west of Clairville.
John, there is a city project, we are working on another detention basin in that area. Yes.
Oh, okay. When we bring up facts, this is how the entire thing has gone.
That's the way it's been.
And this is how it's been. So until, and we're, because I'm not allowed to speak to him,
But we're getting the answer, and that's what I'm working
but
towards.
this is the problem. We are not following, there's so much corruption in all of this, right from the beginning, right from day one. When the petition was signed, potentially unlawfully, to submit this, to all of this happening beforehand, without the county. No, and maybe I'm incorrect in the way I understand how things are supposed to be. But in essence, this committee is supposed to direct the employees. And you go back to the county board for what should be a decision made. The decision should not be made by employees telling this committee then and telling the board what is going to happen.
Correct.
There's a problem. That needs to be straightened out.
Bill Benson, landowner, Clairville Road. To go back to Dennis's question, if the city is currently putting in another retention pond that is in size about equal to the amount of what these rural flood storage districts are, or that is going to hold water, this storm water, how does that affect these districts, which are upstream of it?
Would you have an answer for that?
I can try to give an answer. I
I would
can't, give-
appreciate
I
that
can't
if
give
you
the
would.
most detailed answer on it because again, Strain's not here, but the detention basin that is proposed is southwest of the intersection of Clairville and 20th Avenue. It will detain about
Acreage or what?
Yeah,
Stored
acreage,
volume wise?
volume wise.
We're still working it out, so the 300 to 400 acre feet of storage is what's in the CIP, and we're still working through the design.
So we are building that storage to try to reduce the floodplain farther in the city. With that in there, it will lower the floodplain in the city. Currently, we have numerous properties that are still in the floodplain and floodway. The statement that this replaces that isn't quite accurate. There's about I believe it's about 500 acre feet of storage in the flood storage districts. Even with that in place and the additional flood storage built, there are still going to be structures impacted downstream and in the floodplain. So it does not eliminate the need for this. Combined with the flood storage districts in place, it continues to help reduce the floodplain and ensure that more properties in the future aren't flooded as a result of areas being filled and developed.
I think this is why we want Strand here. We get an exact.
Yes,
answer to
exactly,
that.
yes. People that have been living this.
And Mr. Gordy can only do so much as far as from his end. It's the engineers that we have to.
That are
we have to put
based
the
on
hard question,
theory.
and we have to put the hard question.
And in 4 years, that theory has changed drastically, along with the ability for any more water to flow down Sawyer Creek as they have closed in the floodways and flood storage that was naturally even available along Sawyer Creek going forward. And if we'd like, I mean, we can go down and we can start naming off a couple that I'm sure everyone is well aware of. Aspire Living. There's a new dentist office. These are all right along the bed, in essence, of Sawyer Creek, or what
That's
must
actually
be,
my rural road, so.
which must be quite close
So
to
I know that area.
the floodway. I mean, I can't for 1 second believe that the new dentist office does not fall on the floodway of
The city.
this, of Sawyer Creek.
It is outside, that is checked with the mapping, and it is outside the floodplain.
Oh, wait, I don't want to have, I don't want to have arguments back and forth here.
The
We're
case,
trying to,
if that is the case, that is off of the floodway, and that wouldn't quantify a theoretical detention of some water there. Theoretically, my property in Dennis's has nothing to do with Sawyer Creek then. What's happening is we are trying to take and solve the problem of flooding in the city of Oshkosh.
That they caused themselves.
And they're not doing anything to save themselves because they continue to narrow that water passage up. Drive down the road, you can see all the new buildings that have been approved. This is like going to northern Minnesota and building a huge vat in northern Minnesota to save New Orleans.
Mr. Henson, go back to your question. Does the city currently own that land that the project is projected to go on?
So Justin Garrett, City of Oshkosh Engineering Division Manager, city engineer. We own two of three parcels. We are still in the process of obtaining the third.
Thank you.
yeah. Has everybody gotten? I want to make sure everybody has their chance to speak.
Okay, the city had enough power to stop the state from putting in the bigger culverts under 91 until they get this pond done. So you know it's in the works. So I don't know who's gonna lie to know, but
Well, and one of the things I can say, especially to one of the items you brought up when coming here, and I was formerly chairman of the city plan commission. And I know that when it comes to Sawyer Creek, the city's hands are tied by the DNR. They can dredge it, they can't make it any deeper, they can't make it any wider, they can't do anything, they can't do anything that we would normally do.
told them to do.
Let's continue building right on top of it.
But there, I believe. And I will ask you, Mr. Doherty, because I don't want to speak out of turn on this, but I believe that. The DNR has a lot to say about what's built around the Sawyer Creek Basin.
Anything that is developed around the basin has to be outside of the mapped floodplain and floodway based on where it is currently sitting. With, or as it currently sits today, with the storage areas included in the FEMA approved model. With or without it, those new developments are outside of that mapped floodway floodplain.
And that's.
Or they have them amended. Like the hospital's floodway, when the hospital was built,
Before my time, so.
They built it.
that was amended through the DNR. It was amended. So let's think about the thought process of everything that's happening.
And those are all questions we won't want to ask when we get to DNR here as well. That's why I said we're trying to set the one date, so that way we can get.
Well, and there's a different person that's going to handle the permits that will handle the portion that would actually come here and speak to us, because it's a chain and it's a continuous thing, and it's just like trying to call down to planning and zoning. You just get, oh, you got to talk to this person, you got to talk to this person. And it's just a continuous of pushing off and no one being willing to come forward with information. Just as a simple question was asked, is there a retention pond planned? Oh, no, nothing. As soon as something comes forward, you can't address me, you gotta address him. So as soon as something comes forward, then, oh yeah, okay, yep, that is in the works. It's dirt, it's dirty. There's a lot of dirty information going on. And it's gonna come out.
Well, and that's.
Because people need hobbies.
And so let me maybe put a wrap on this part of this right now. Brian, who has served on previous planning and zoning committees, he and I talked about this, and he knows my only goal right now is to get information out there, get everybody together, so that way we can make an up or down vote with information, with these questions being asked of those people in front of us, and them answering and actually seeing all of this go on. I'm just trying to get this going as far as get the information out there, get everybody involved, so that way we can actually make a knowledgeable decision, not just shooting from the hip. And that's all I want. Whether we say yes or no to
We
this,
talk about whose knowledge we're talking about also, because
Well,
just
this-
because
that-
somebody has an engineering degree. Does not mean that their theory, because Oshkosh City of Oshkosh has been going by the same theoretical plan from Strand and Associates for over 20 years. And the theory, there's a portion of it
well,
that isn't necessarily working either.
and I know you don't know me from Adam. But here's what I'm asking you is to trust me in the process. It's not saying that we're gonna trust everything that they say. It's not saying we're gonna trust everything that landowners say. It's saying we're gonna put the story together.
You don't
'Cause
know
you're
me
gonna
from
ask-
Adam either, and I'm gonna tell you something. My trust has been broken by every single employee of the city of Oshkosh. And a huge portion of the city or the county planning department. And trust has to be earned. It's not just given.
Well, I'm trying to earn it.
Okay,
And that's why I'm trying to do this process the right way, by getting everybody involved. So that way we have everybody there to do this. And get these questions answered in person with everybody there seeing it. That's all I can do. That's the best I can do I think that's the best I can do for you guys, is to have all of you involved, plus all of these other people involved in one place at one time. And then we see what happens as that
and
goes.
we've been through this multiple times.
And I
So
understand that.
understand,
I
you're
understand
coming in
that.
behind the gun of a lot of history.
And I'm also coming in where it's kind of just been shuffled aside, and I'm like, I'm the one who has to grab the reins and say, we need to come to a resolution in this. I wasn't gonna just let it slide for another 2 years while I was chairman. Sir,
My question is, when we look at doing these projects to lower the base flood elevation on the flood insurance rate map, what these maps that we're looking at, when were they last updated? Or what are we're lowering information on maps that are,
2003,
2003.
when were they created?
2003, I believe.
2003. So they haven't been updated since then,
20 years.
so they've never been updated.
Justin, I see your hand.
Yeah, so that may be when they created, there was an update back in 2018 or 19, I think. That's what kind of started this process to where we're at today. So I believe the maps that FEMA has out there, the approved maps. Were updated, again, I don't have the exact date, but like 2019-ish, and that's where the flood storage districts came from.
What was updated in those maps in 2019-ish?
So the maps were updated with all of the work that the city's done over the last 20+ years. So we've done numerous bridges, we've done the dredging of Sawyer Creek. Again, we spent $20+ million in the Sawyer Creek watershed to lower that base load elevation. And that's what the model is derived off of to create the actual floodplain elevations, and that's how it was presented to FEMA.
So the maps that were created in 2003, the projects that have the community or the city has done has. And the update has actually lowered the base flood, continued to lower the base flood elevation of those maps. Or that one update, I guess, the one update.
With the flood storage districts approved, correct.
Thank you.
Anything else before I turn around? I don't want to turn my back on anybody when they want to speak.
I just wanted to clarify
Go
one
ahead.
thing, because I think what my comment before was misunderstood. The statement was made that, as I heard it, was that the city is doing a detention basin in the area, and the rural detention wouldn't be needed. That was what I was saying is inaccurate. I didn't mean to imply that people in the rural detention basin. It's just that the fact that the storage districts wouldn't be needed. Was my, as I'm listening, seems to be that part was misunderstood by either myself as I made the comment or. Wanting that clarification.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay,
Okay.
I want to speak.
Absolutely.
White, I want
Now-
to speak. So
And by the way, I was trying to take some of this heat from all of you guys. That's
You're
why I
gonna get
was-
some, so you might as well be prepared for it.
Oh, I'm ready.
So. So here's my history on this. It has been 4 years. And we had, and I'm gonna jump around a little bit. We had a public hearing at the airport where Strand was present. I want to say it was Matt. He did a great presentation. But he didn't answer questions. And he was the one that told about the theory. Okay, and he said, I'm just an engineer. And a lot of this is based on theory. He did not answer everyone's questions. I will give him credit for the presentation, but not answering the questions. And we had a full house. And being involved with this since day one, I turned around and I said to Mark Roloff, this has been your problem since the 70s. It is a city of Oshkosh problem. You allowed all this development to take place, west and more west and more west. Evergreen Manor, apartment complexes. And Sawyer Creek was there. And so you were worried about development. And he said to me, I don't believe we were that worried about it. Because we wanted the city to expand that direction. We can't go out into the lake. We couldn't go south to Black Wolf. We couldn't go north through the town of Oshkosh. And town of Algoma was also an issue. So this thing came to a screeching halt because of COVID, not because of the farmers, not because of the county board. The county board sent it back to committee. So we've been back and forth with this several times. The committee I sat on voted it down. And we had a lot of information. I understand the city's perspective on development. I truly understand that. But the statement was made this morning by the public that there's amendments can be made. Developments do take place. That is correct. So I don't believe anyone is to blame for why it's 4 years later. Because this has been on the table a couple of times and been voted down, had been sent back to this committee, voted down again. So new information to me saying there's going to be another retention pond and we're buying more acreage, which is taxpayers' money again, doesn't resolve anything about the Sawyer Creek. And initially, and Brian will remember this and Tom Egan will remember this. Carrie brought the map and there were it was a beautiful map. And here were all the storage areas. And I asked you, do the people that own the properties know that this is mapped? I don't think that we knew that they knew or not, but I sensed that we kind of figured they didn't know this. They weren't informed, and that what started the ball rolling, where the committee members asked who were notified. And some of us went out and hand delivered letters, some more than other, Supervisor Jefferdine and Keller and Egan. To make sure everybody was notified, because the notifications failed. So it was like this was not handled properly, I'll put it that way, because I don't want to accuse anybody of anything here. So when we had the public hearing and all the players were there, we were told we'll get answers to the questions. Yeah, they didn't get answers to our questions. And also keep in mind, the city did spend that $20 million. That is truthful. And I believe what Supervisor Jefferdine said that FEMA, DNR, we had a county board meeting and the gal from DNR came And she really didn't add anything as to information. So. We know how many properties are in the county that can get floodplain insurance. And that the threat is there that they might lose it. But. The dollar difference. On an insurance premium. Was trivial when we looked into that side of it. So I'm sitting here today and going, what are we going forward with? We're gonna have another public hearing. And we can't have that public hearing in the chambers of the boardroom, not gonna work, so we have to have it somewhere similar again. I'm sitting here today and nobody's convinced me that we need to move forward with this to a public hearing. It's like we're gonna start all over again. And we still have that same map. So I'm hoping the new people can give some more insight. And maybe Supervisor Egan can give a little bit of insight. Why we should move this forward to a public hearing? Whose benefit is it for? The farmers are well versed and landowners. Two of the three of us are well versed. The city knows what's going on. If you three guys want a public hearing, so be it. I don't know what new information is gonna be shed on this. But again, it's 4 years, but it's not 4 years of anybody in particular's fault. Because this subject was discussed and down. So that's all I'm gonna say right now.
I guess I'm kind of upset at you. You made the comment that you gotta take it over and straighten it all out now. You are completely wrong. There was some of us that were on there. Brian even went to Washington to find out some answers for us. So I wouldn't say the past ones haven't done a decent job. Have we agreed with everything that's been done? No.
If I said straighten it out, that wasn't what I intended.
That's what you said.
I'm sorry, I take it, move it forward, so we have a conclusion, so we have some kind of an answer,
So
up or down. That's been my goal through all this. I've told you, I know what I voted for when I was with the city, but I was thinking of the people of the city of Oshkosh in there. Now I'm with the county, and it's a total different ballgame. And I realize that,
but you still live in the city.
but I still live in the city. But I have people, I have relatives actually who live along that
Right.
floodplain, so it's.
Anyways, and as far as whether it was done right or wrong, I have to say no. Thank goodness it was up to the county, because they did not even put on the open meeting. The county had to send out or hand out all the letters or whatever to make sure there was an open meeting. I hate this to knock the city, but I don't think we'd be in this problem today if they would have started off right and done it right from the start. I've got a whole thing here back from the March meeting that from all different townships that are not in for this whatsoever. I can read them off. I got them right here. So when we get to that point, if you want to hear all the townships that say some are right on there that join this, some aren't. But so a good share of our county is not even for this. So I'm gonna be like Mary Beth, I'm gonna be liking this, listen to you three talk about it, but as of right now, because I sat through at least 2, if not 3 of the Oshkosh meetings already, where these people, if they wanted to speak to the county board, they had to stand behind and talk before, then they got to hear what they had to say.
Right.
Which, was that fair? Well, I will tell you, as chairman of the county board, it won't happen again that way, just so you understand. So I'll let it be for now. I'm hot
No,
now.
I know we've had discussions about this, Tom.
Mr. Chairman, real quick,
Yes.
the DNR is present on Zoom here for whoever's worth, if there's any questions of the DNR. Just
Thank you. What's going on?
I'll chime in.
Okay. Howard?
When I first started looking at this proposal, I was actually thinking that we were actually doing something that was going to create these flood districts and solve a flooding problem. As I got to digging into what was being proposed, no, there's no new construction. This is all, we're relying on roads and culverts to hold back the water, which I think is an incredibly bad idea because roads are not made like dams and we're treating them that way. And we're using blacktop for a spillway. And this is not a good idea. So, you know, I see this whole project, you know, we're not changing anything. We're not solving a problem. If we were really looking at solving a problem, I'm all for working at that. But you've got to put everything on the table. And one of the things that has to be on the table is lowering the summertime elevation of Lake Winnebago. Because face it, this county is flat. And the only way you get water to drain is if you have somewhere for it to drain into. You lower the summertime elevation of Winnebago and you've created a huge storage area. And then it's a matter of getting Sawyer Creek so that you can get the water down. I'm not in favor of this proposal the way it is. If you know, somebody wants to look at really doing something that would solve a problem, you know, I can get behind that, but not this proposal the way it is.
Thank you, Howard. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a couple questions for Ms. Hayes. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Good.
Good. So Michelle, if I could address you that way, you've been very good at talking with me on the phone, and on March 8th, we had a phone call, and at that time, you were not aware that the other basin that I know of, and I know there's others, right? Anyway, so the other basin, you were not aware that there was a lot of feedback from the landowners and the community that they were dry more often than not. Is that right?
Yes.
You had no knowledge of what was happening with the other basins, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then you referred me on to Eric Stadig, the water management specialist, who did say that he saw in 2021 Google Earth that there was water in it. And I guess the other question I have for you is, at the time you were drafting a letter to the city of Oshkosh that has something to, could you tell us what that letter entailed?
So we had drafted a letter not to the city, but to the DOT, and it was specifically on the proposed Highway 91 project.
Okay, and how did that include the 6 parcels?
That did not include the 6 parcels. It was really geared towards Highway 91.
Okay, at one point you had said to me something about you were wondering if the 6 parcels could be offset and potentially not needed because of the basin that is proposed. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that the city is looking at doing another detention basin similar to the James Road detention basin. They're calling it Rural 2 right now, as far as I know. And one of the items that we were discussing was that if that would be additional storage to reduce peak flows downstream, and if we don't resolve the issue of adopting the storage areas that were accounted for in the modeling and mapping within the county, would there be the ability to utilize rural 2 to be the storage district and adopted and regulated, and therefore removing those other storage areas from the modeling that are within the county that right now are not currently adopted.
Okay, thank you. So. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have all kinds of information, Chairman, but it has been addressed by other people. I guess if I could just do a little quickling of my notes here real quick. Let's see. There's there there's when you look at the papers
Mhm.
and the track record and you take notes. I was at the airport meeting, you know, I appreciated talking with the staff that was involved, but I'm a note taker. I study things and if things just don't add up. I understand, like Mr. Defferding was saying, that the, you know, people involved obviously want the same thing as far as erosion control and drainage and all that. One of the things that I did talk with Eric Static about after talking with Ms. Hayes was there any record that the city requested to dredge? And there was some request to dredge the creek. 2012, 2011, there was a Norbid and Bobby Joe Fisher, but there was, but when there's, I had become aware that there was a request by the city to widen the creek, and water management specialist said, you don't widen, you dredge. And so he said, no, he had nothing on record of that. That would have been an alternative.
I just have.
Go ahead, Steve.
Are you asking if the city did a dredging project?
Yes,
Yes, the city did a dredging project. We removed about 40,000 cubic yards of material from Sawyer Creek. From about Westfield east.
okay, when was it done?
Back to the Sawyer Creek, to the river. Might as well say.
41 to the river, okay.
That area, yes.
And when was that done?
That was 2013,
12, 13.
right after those inquiries to the DNR.
So 10 years ago. So has the city looked into doing this again?
We haven't, we don't believe there's a need at this point in time. It hadn't been dredged for decades upon decades previously.
Okay,
And the city, to our detriment, there have been some poor decisions made with some utility infrastructure that created an obstruction in there that we removed as following that project once it was discovered. So the sediment shouldn't be building up as fast again.
so I struggle with, I'm not quite sure why the dredging isn't like top priority as far as like making sure that, and then, because when all my constituents, when I went and have visited, people that have nothing to do with the landowners would automatically say, clean up the waterways and the creeks. That's just the natural common sense. So I'm surprised at that.
Doesn't while it helps, it doesn't provide nearly as much benefit to dredge below water because it's already full of water. It doesn't. It increases how fast the water can move through it, that, but it doesn't, it's not that large of benefit to deal with the issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of documentation that I have, Mr. Chairman, that I understand the idea of the county needs to be aware of this at the county board. I hear that, I get that. But they've all put in a lot of time and effort in this, and I came in new in April last year. But since then, this is my main focus, or I mean, my area that of study when needed. And I just think that the past committee members did their due diligence at the time, and it's all on record. And I did go to of course, the airport meeting and took lots of notes and so on. So I can't support moving this forward. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. No, I just want to say this, obviously this has been a learning experience for me because like Tom said, I did come here from the city. I've talked with a lot of different supervisors about this. Either in brief meeting, brief discussions at, before or after meetings or just whenever. I've heard everything that's been said. I wanted to always keep my main goal on if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this right. But I've always said to you guys, your decision. So whatever you decide today, I appreciate the experience that's in the room right now, especially including past members that aren't on this committee anymore. And if you guys want to make a motion and decide how to go forward with this, that's up to you. And how you want to go. It's not up to me to sit here and cheerlead for one side or the other right now.
If we don't make a motion, does it die? Do we have to make,
I would think.
do we have to make a motion?
Well, it technically doesn't, but
Oh, it could come back in another.
yeah, I mean, it's in essence tabled again. I mean, it's just the application continues to wander, and I do need to point out, and I appreciate Tom reminding us of this, but back in February 7th, 2020, this committee, the prior committee, did vote 5-0 to move it back to public hearing. And, and then the pandemic came along and here we are, we had all these various informational meetings. So that is out there yet. I mean, this committee did take action to get it back to county board, or I should say, send it back to public hearing and then ultimately county board. I don't know if you want to address that by taking action regarding that particular vote, either rescinding it, reaffirming it, whatever you would like to do. That's entirely up to you guys, but so that is out there yet, and in some ways, staff does have some obligation, to honor that vote unless some other action occurs today. So
Okay,
that's where we are.
thank you. I appreciate
Sure,
that.
no problem.
information.
Thank you.
I'd just like to have this, and it don't have to be written in or whatever, but I will put it in March 3rd or March 26, 2019, Winnebago floodplain. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Matthew Yates, the project manager for Strand and Associates, he was here and explained why for all of that. I had asked Supervisor Egan asked Mr. Youngs why the county should adopt the study, lowering the base flood evaluation Sawyer Creek. But what I wanted to get to on all of this here is I'm writing response proposed to Sawyer Creek. We have land in the floodplain and we would prefer there no amendment to the floodplain map as we feel additional regulation is unnecessary and not to benefit. We farm this land and plan to continue to farm the land for years to come. Thank you for your help, Dennis and Carol Radloff. It's here. Okay, now what I wanted to get to is there was only 2 out of the ones that sent back anything from the county saying that they would go along with it. Town of Neenah recommended approval. Town Board of Akaimai denial. Town Board of Amro denial. Town of Utica denial. Town of Inland denial. Town of Winnie County, Town of Rushford denial. Town of Wolf River, they recommended for approval. So you had 2 out of the ones that feedback that for approval, and the rest were all denials. Some it's because they didn't help their towns whatsoever, and some of them were out of their so some of them will be affected by this, some of the people that live in these townships. So that's right in the minutes back in March. And here it is, 2019 is when that was written. So 4 years, like you said.
Thank you, Tom.
So I wondered if I could ask Mr. Boucher a question. Do you have record of a petition by landowners that was turned into the planning and zoning?
I think Carrie.
Yes.
Carrie's got something.
Is that something that we could eventually or take a look at, or?
This petition was to require a 3/4 vote should it go to the county board floor.
By the landowners?
Yeah, it's premature. After you have a hearing, after you have the hearing. The petition, first of all, I would have to validate that it's an acceptable petition.
Mhm.
And then if that is the case, that would go to the county board for the final approval.
Okay,
Should the project move forward.
so. So Julie Bartle signed it, and this was on October 14th, 2022. So we have formal protest petition against proposed zone change by Michael Bradley, Michael Rank, Dennis Radloff, Brittany Phillips, William Benson, Merrick Botratz, and Robert Laus. Okay. Don't know if I'm saying that right. Okay, thank you for providing that. May I pass it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So. That was all I had.
So where we stand right now, since we'd have to rescind moving to a public hearing.
Mhm.
I mean, that would be the first thing that we would have to do.
Yeah.
Or we move this to a public hearing,
More or less, it's.
because we got the former committee vote saying going to a public hearing, and now it's years later. Okay,
I'll make a motion that it be rescinded.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Wasn't expecting any. We've had quite a bit already. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, do we take any action beyond that, or is it just table,
It's
just
entirely
a
up to
table
this
position now, or?
Yeah, it's entirely up to this committee.
Okay,
May I make a comment before making the motion?
absolutely.
Okay, so the idea that I've heard, several times, the importance of waiting and seeing about the, what Strand would have to say and all of that, and others as well, city engineers, all of that, all of the staff that also have been looking at this for years. However, I really don't need any more information on it. I really feel like due diligence has been made, and I would make a motion that we would not send this to county board, and that we would deny it today.
You're
I'll
making a
second.
motion?
I am making a motion.
No, that's fine.
I'll second it. Well, she was looking at me.
Yeah.
Well,
I was waiting for you guys to start fighting about who's gonna. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Can you restate your motion?
Yes,
please?
please.
I would like to if I had your experience. But I would, I'd make a motion to end this, to deny this resolution. Where's this?
To not move it forward.
To not move it
not
forward.
But to a public hearing.
Yeah, and to withdraw,
This is the second thing that I wanted
to
to,
withdraw the application.
That will come
Altogether.
after, or
Can
it's the same one.
can I have a minute?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
It's, you said you're not sending to county board.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But
Well,
it's
we
public.
already voted on that one.
No, the first one was public hearing. That's all.
To rescind
We
the,
have public hearing on Wednesdays.
Say it again.
So it's on the table right now. The previous committee's vote is
gone.
gone,
Right.
and a position needs to be taken as to whether you move it to a public hearing or not.
Okay,
County board comes later. The beginning of the process is the public hearing.
So I think you should, my suggestion is change your motion.
all right.
You make a motion that we not move this forward to public hearing? Is
No,
that what
the county board she's.
Public,
Public
public
hearing.
hearing.
No
I'll
public
take my
hearing.
motion back and
Yeah.
start all over.
Start.
Yes, public hearing is
Withdraw.
for,
Withdraw
Yeah,
my
withdraw
second.
and it is.
My second.
if I'm understanding correctly, she would want to make a motion to not move it forward to public hearing.
Correct.
Correct, if that's what you want to do.
I make a motion to not move this forward to public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, now that we have that straight, any discussion on the motion?
I support your theory. We have been inundated with information and the new people, you've picked up the pace. So I don't know what a public hearing is going to accomplish. That is my thought. Just as simple as that, and a suggestion, just as a non-professional, non-engineer, non-governmental work person, start over. Start over with a different map, start over with a different, as Howie said, make this work for what it's supposed to do and keep all parties informed. Just a suggestion. So that's why I'm gonna vote not to send this to a public hearing. That's my comments.
Okay, and I'm just gonna say, as the chairman, it was my job to have all things, all possibility, all outcomes, and moving forward was always part of what could happen. And that's why I've been doing that. It's not because I've told you guys all before, I'm open to hearing everything, and I've heard a lot in the last year that we've been here. And obviously, I've come around to understanding the county's point of view. And I don't want anybody to take out of this that I was trying to push anybody to vote for something or trying to convince you to vote for something. I was learning along the way. And I know I've talked with you about this quite a bit. I've talked with you about this quite a bit. We even talked with Brian after a few meetings about this and before. So I was getting my info from past people as well. But my job was to say, well, if we do go forward, I have to have my I's dotted and my T's crossed and everybody ready to go. So that was how I had to move forward with all of this.
Didn't argue that.
And
That's fine.
and that's that. I just want everybody to understand that it wasn't me trying to push any idea on anybody. I would never tell anybody how to vote on anything or try to sway your vote for what you believe. So I just thank you. And with that said, is there any other discussion on the motion on the floor?
After this.
Yeah.
After this.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay. You guys are confusing me back there.
Don't worry, we'll
Hand gestures and.
we'll be back. We'll be back.
Okay, all those in favor of the motions, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unopposed. Okay, motion passes to not move forward to public
So
hearing.
now it's not moved forward. Now we have an application that's pending. So we don't want to leave an application pending. The committee should probably take action regarding that application, whether to
I knew he was
withdraw.
getting to what you wanted to do, Shauna. That's why I was like, just let Carrie finish.
I think she's on it.
But that's not on the agenda. That's not on the agenda.
It's all part of Sawyer Creek though.
All right, all right, all right,
See what you want, just
all right.
so it don't come back.
Well, I don't want any legal mumbo jumbo because
Oh, well, before,
it
yeah,
says
that's a
committee
good point.
discussion on Sawyer Creek floodplain amendment.
And moving forward,
It doesn't
and,
say,
and impossible committee act on forwarding amendment to planning and zoning.
right,
committee
that's
public hearing.
all that statement says.
So can we do that, or do we have to actually put that into another meeting?
It's all part of the process of.
I just want to make sure that.
I don't, how is it worded?
You know, if the committee's uncomfortable with that, we can gotta be until the May meeting here. Your May meeting to.
I feel more comfortable.
To specifically
worried
put it
about
on there as
legal.
withdrawal.
Just on-
With,
No, but that's a very good point that you bring that.
no, I
up.
appreciate that,
And that's the only reason I'm saying that.
yeah.
I just, it's not here and
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, yeah, I mean, so, yeah, I mean, an argument can be made either way on it, but if
Yeah.
to be safe, if you're uncomfortable with that, yeah, I mean,
I think
there's no
definitely,
harm to wait until.
well, I think definitely with the fact that this has been going on for as long as it's been going on. We owe it to the people who care about this to do it the right way and make sure that we don't have any questions with it, so. Is that how does the rest of the committee feel?
Not interested, not, I would like to move forward. The committee decision on Sawyer Creek floodplain amendment and possible committee action on forwarding amendment to planning and zoning committee. So I'd like to make a motion to withdraw the application altogether.
Make the
The
motion.
application of the amendment.
Withdraw the application of the amendment, Sawyer
Sawyer
Creek
Creek
floodplain amendment. I think we have, Mr. Bougie said the argument could be made either way.
Who's gonna argue it though?
Well, I don't know.
I'm
You know,
I'm
there's-
worried about.
Yeah,
legal.
I get it.
Okay, that's
So-
to protect county planning and zoning.
Is there a,
I'm
well,
not gonna.
let's do this first. Is there a second?
I don't, if you guys want to, go ahead, yeah,
I'll second it for discussion, sure.
okay.
Why not? I'm always ready for an argument.
There we go. All right, so let's discuss.
So can I ask, go ahead.
I understand Mary Beth's point.
Right,
You know, since it isn't specifically mentioned, put on the agenda that way. And we want to be away from any legal challenges later on. I get the feeling this committee does not want this to move forward. And I agree with that. But postponing that vote for another until the May meeting, I don't see any harm in doing
Okay.
that,
good point.
you know? That way it can get on the agenda exactly how it needs to be on the agenda, so that we're not taking any action that somebody could later come back and bite us with it.
Where is this going if we take a vote on that? And it sort of is done. It doesn't go to county board.
No,
No,
it.
It hangs in somewhat of.
Well, if you withdraw the application,
Okay.
it's essentially dead, and at that point,
We see what happens.
you know.
Okay.
You'd have to start, in essence, if I'm not mistaken, Carrie, you'd have to start the process all over, in this. If you ever wanted to bring it forward at some point in the future, but that you'd have to reestablish a brand new application.
And that's what I was speaking about earlier. Is this needs to go all back around and maybe try and skip it, just saying. So that would give the option to certain members of this meeting that they need to relook at it. becomes a dead issue. All right, if you're not worried about legal, not that you're an attorney either, but I understand. You had a good point, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I
I
don't,
don't think there's no harm.
I don't think there's any harm in waiting until next month.
Oh, you want to wait till?
Yes,
You know, just to make sure
Okay,
that there isn't any legal ramifications to it. You know?
because then it could be on the agenda.
Yeah, then we can put it specifically
That's
on the
what it is.
agenda. This is what's gonna be voted on.
But it has to be worded as discussed and.
Right.
I don't see it.
discussion on how to,
No.
are we proceeding with the amendment or something? I don't know. how
Well,
it's
it
gonna
would
on
just
there,
be
but-
We're gonna
But
take, no,
Right.
it has to be put on there that we're gonna take action on the amendment.
Yeah,
Cause it'll go to. That'll have to go through the whole process, right? We'll do the,
No,
or no.
No.
you're just putting it on an agenda
Yeah.
to address
For-
a pending application that's sitting
Right,
in a
Yeah,
file.
at this
And you
meeting
want
next month.
to, you may want to make a motion to pull that application. And it's no longer pending.
yeah, it's to essentially withdraw.
Okay, and to add on to what's been said already, I think we owe it to these townships, I think we owe it to these landowners. To have a clean ending to this, and I don't think waiting until the next meeting. Is too much to ask to give them that clean ending, whereas we can't say for sure, if we do it now, we're not gonna have. Something that comes up and says it's,
are you okay with all that?
No.
You,
I just have a question now. You
Sure,
guys,
sure,
this is pending, is sitting in a file.
right.
You guys are not gonna look at that file till next month? You're gonna guarantee us? Nothing's gonna be opened up and say, we've already got this.
No,
It's been sitting for 2
No,
years
I
on
know,
the shelf.
well, I know,
No, we're
I
not-
didn't ask that, I said, you're
Yeah,
not gonna be opened up and.
We're not.
There's
doing-
no reason.
We're not doing anything. with it.
We answer to you.
Yeah, so it's yeah. Go ahead.
So I have a
Sure.
question for Mr. O'Rourke. I'd like your feedback, because I could see that. I'd like your feedback on why it's important to change the,
Because the action refers to forwarding the amendment to a public hearing.
okay,
You've made a motion, that's been seconded, that's been approved 5-0. I would be uncomfortable with going forward at this meeting with any kind of action, because to me, that reads that the action is only on whether or not you forward it to public hearing.
okay.
thank you, Brian, that's the way I was reading that.
So we could make a motion not to forward it to public
That's
meeting.
what we've done.
we already did that.
Okay,
So now it's in it's in purgatory, basically.
oh,
We'd like to get it out of purgatory.
we would.
And basically, yeah, our discussion now is whether we act on it now or wait, because it's not technically on the agenda.
Okay, all
So that
right,
way
thank you.
And that's why I was saying these people deserve a clean ending instead of one where possibly they can say, well, you acted out of turn. Now you have to come back through again.
Okay, so
Okay,
And
right.
and between the magnitude of this and the amount of time that has been involved. I wouldn't be comfortable as a staff if you took another step on some action. That's just my opinion.
Okay, thank
At
you.
today,
thank you,
right.
thank you.
All right.
Okay,
Okay, so,
do we make a motion to adjourn?
well, we have a motion on the floor.
Let's pull the motion.
Right, there was a motion to withdraw,
Okay, all right,
Second. so you need a vote on.
So if
Are
you are for waiting until next month to do this, it's a nay vote. And if you're wanting to vote on it today,
all right.
it's an aye vote.
That's correct.
Or,
So,
or they could just withdraw their motion.
or they could withdraw.
Or, you know, it's
their
entirely,
Right.
I mean, just helping out there.
I would like to withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
There we go.
Okay,
Now I will accept the motion to adjourn.
now I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We adjourn.
Thank you.